When was the last time you stopped? I mean, really stopped and asked yourself, where is all of this AI activity actually taking you? Not what tools you're using, not what the board is asking about, not what your competitors just announced last quarter. Where is it taking you? And I'm asking because I think a lot of leaders right now have a quiet, nagging feeling they haven't quite been able to put their finger on. And today I want to pinpoint it. I want to give you a framework for it. And then I want to share 3 announcements that I am genuinely excited about, things that I think are going to matter to you and to this community. So stay with me to the end because the last few minutes of this episode are ones you don't want to miss. Welcome to the Modern Enterprise Unpacked. I'm Wallis Mills, and today we're talking about the velocity trap and what strategic leaders should actually be optimizing for right now. This coming week, GTC is kicking off in San Jose. Jensen Huang is going to take the stage. The AI industry is holding its breath, and it's going to lean forward. And I have enormous respect for what NVIDIA has built. I've worked there. I've produced sessions for GTC. I've hosted sessions at GTC. I've watched it all up close. The capability curve is real, and the engineering is simply extraordinary. But I keep coming back to this one thing. Speed is the right variable if you're a hyperscaler. If raw throughput is literally what you're selling, speed matters above almost everything else. But most companies aren't hyperscalers. And for the rest of us, the manufacturers, the financial services firms, the healthcare systems, the professional service companies, speed is one variable among many. And focusing primarily on speed can be a detrimental distraction. So here's the question I kept wanting to raise in those rooms, the one that rarely made it onto the agenda. If everyone is optimizing for speed, what are we actually racing toward? Here's how it starts. You're a smart leader. You're paying attention. You see what's happening with AI, and you know you can't afford to fall behind. So you move. You approve the pilots, you spin up the task force, you get the vendors in, you give the board something to point to. And on the surface, everything looks fine. There's momentum, there's activity, there's even a slide deck that says AI strategy on the cover. But here's the question nobody's asking in that room. Toward what? I've been in a lot of those rooms, and what I've noticed consistently is that the conversation almost always starts with capability and almost never starts with direction. What can this do? How fast can we implement? How are our competitors doing? Those questions matter, but they are rarely the best place to start. The velocity trap is what happens when motion becomes a substitute for strategy, when the pressure to do something overrides the discipline to get clear on what you're doing and, more importantly, who you're doing it for. And once you're in it, it's genuinely hard to see because everything looks like progress. So how do you know if your organization has fallen into the velocity trap? There are 3 signs I see most often. And honestly, most organizations I talk to are dealing with at least one of them. The first one is dependency you didn't notice accumulating. Every AI tool you adopt through the cloud, every API you integrate, every convenient platform you plug into, it becomes a dependency that gets baked in. Someone else controls the model. Someone else sets the pricing. Someone else decides when the terms change, when the capability you built your whole workflow around gets deprecated or repriced or restricted. And most organizations adopt these tools without ever mapping that surface. They wake up one day and realize their most strategic decisions are running on infrastructure they don't control and have no plan B for. That's not a technology problem, that's a strategy problem, and it tends to show up at the worst possible moment. So the second sign is the story lagging behind the reality. Your organization is doing real things with AI, building real capability, but the narrative, what you can clearly articulate to your board, your talent, your customers, your investors, hasn't kept pace. Your story is being treated like marketing, like a nice-to-have accessory, instead of like the load-bearing wall that it is. The organizations winning the AI transition right now aren't necessarily the most technically sophisticated. The best story always wins. They're the ones whose narrative keeps pace with what they're building. And when the story lags, you start losing things. Talent goes to the organization that can articulate where it's going. Capital follows confidence. Internal alignment erodes when people can't connect their daily work to a bigger picture. So the narrative gap ends up being a quiet leak. Okay. The third sign, this is the one that keeps me up at night. Most organizations have big bets stacked against a 3 to 5 year plan. It's in a slide deck. It went through the board. Leadership signed off on it. And then everyone went back to their desks and buried themselves in the next 90 days. And here's why that matters more than it ever has before. That 5-year plan, a significant part of it is built on assumptions about AI infrastructure that will look nothing, and I mean nothing, like the actual landscape by 2030. The capabilities being announced this year are based on what companies can sell you today or next year. And that's not a conspiracy. It's just good business. It makes complete sense for a vendor to focus on what they can ship, what they can price, and what they can support right now. But no one in that transaction has a strong incentive to sit with you and map what that landscape is going to look like in 5 years. That's your job. And with every release cycle, as the gap between what was announced and what actually shipped widens, as the performance chasm between generations keeps growing, the cost of not lifting your eyes is compounding. Every quarter spent heads down on 90-day execution cycles, which most organizations are focused on, without everyone in the room thinking at that 5-year altitude, is a missed opportunity. So while the largest players are playing the game, the real question is how not to get stuck playing the score. So I don't want to leave you with just a diagnosis, because I genuinely believe most leaders already sense this. The velocity trap doesn't catch people by surprise. It catches people who knew something felt off and didn't have the language or the space to name it and didn't know exactly how to address it. So throughout this year, we are going to walk you through what's on the horizon through 2030 and beyond. But here's what I want you to walk away with today. Before you ask how fast you can move, I want you to get clear on where you're going, not as a slogan, but as a specific, honest answer. Why does your business even exist? And before AI, what made it successful? Why do your customers prefer or even champion you? What does a winning position look like for your organization in 3 to 5 years? And is what you're building today pointing toward that? Start mapping your dependency surface. For every AI capability that's become load-bearing, ask who controls it. What happens if the pricing doubles? What's your plan if the model gets pulled? And carve out the space deliberately in the calendar, not aspirationally, to continually think at that altitude. You're going to keep moving. Do you know where you're going before you do? Okay, GTC is going to generate a lot of noise this week. Most of it is going to be about what's faster, what's bigger, what's next. Pay attention and hold on to this question while you're watching. If everyone is optimizing for speed, where are we actually going? That question is one I've been sitting with for a long time, long before this podcast, back in rooms where this industry was being narrated, but where speed was and is still largely their mission. That question is taking me somewhere I didn't fully anticipate, which leads me to the first announcement I promised you. There's going to be a gathering, a conversation I believe this industry genuinely needs to have about direction, about sovereignty, about what it actually means to build for the long game. I'm not ready to share everything just yet, but if you're a subscriber, you will be among the first to know. The link to get on that list is in the show notes. Don't wait on that one. Okay, the second announcement. With all this talk about speed and velocity, I have been thinking a lot about intentionality, about what it looks like to do your best thinking in a world that is noisier than ever, to create the conditions for the kind of work that actually matters. And so I'm absolutely thrilled to announce the launch of our new line of intentional luxury products for intelligent work. We call it the Icons of Intent collection from our Modern Enterprise at Work line. The first pieces are available to shop now at modernenterprise.ai/shop. The link is in the show notes. These are beautiful, purposeful objects for the kind of leader I know you are. So go take a look and treat yourself. Okay, The third announcement, last but absolutely not least, I am so pleased to share that Modern Enterprise is an official media partner of the AI Infra Summit, being held September 15th through the 17th at the Santa Clara Convention Center here in California. And we will be hosting this podcast live from the summit. If you're serious about where AI infrastructure is actually going, and clearly you're here, this is the room you're going to want to be in. Get your ticket now. We have a discount code just for you in the show notes. We have so many exciting things ahead. Guests you absolutely do not want to miss. Conversations I think are going to matter in ways we can't even fully anticipate yet. But for now, I'm Wallis Mills, and this is the Modern Enterprise Unpacked. Until next time.